Hi, this is Steve from LZ23 Strength, where we exert ourselves, we elevate our health, and we evolve in mind and body. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 compelling reasons to consider supplementing with creatine. It's one of the most studied and one of the most common supplements, especially in the fitness and bodybuilding world. Those desiring to get more out of their workouts. It's been used for decades. I've only taken it for probably about 2 years. I'll talk about that at the end. First, we'll go through the 5 reasons, and then we'll talk a little bit about dosage and some things to know regarding creatine that are important, along with the 5 compelling reasons to consider it. First of all, remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, and I'm sure you can tell that through the conversation and what we talk about. And anything that here is just for informational purposes and entertainment, and hopefully pique some curiosity that you can do some digging of your own and talk to your doctor if it's something that you want to implement into your supplement routine as well. So the very first reason why we might want to consider taking creatine is that it helps build muscle. It's great in regarding sports and fitness, and many use it for those reasons. As I mentioned, it's been used for a long time that way. What's inside of creatine? It's actually phosphocreatine, and that helps in so many ways regarding muscle building and different activities associated with that. We'll talk briefly about them, but our body does create it in the liver and the brain, but most of it, probably 90 to 95% of it, is used in the muscles. So we can also get it from meat sources, but as we age, or the way we make it, obviously it slows down like everything else does as we age. So supplementing it can bring great benefits, especially when it comes to exercise and building muscle mass. We've talked about it before that as we age, it's harder and harder to build muscle mass, and it's also harder and harder to maintain what we have. So creatine can be a great assistance in doing that. It helps in regard to building strength, even things like sprint ability, having the explosive power and sprinting, muscle endurance, helps resist fatigue, which as you're working out, the longer you're working out, you probably notice that you feel a little weaker. Let's say if you work out for 45 minutes to an hour, by the end you're might be struggling a little bit, so it helps maybe push out an extra set, push out a few extra reps, and also in recovery, which is actually vital to build muscle. It's not just we think when we're in the gym and we're pumping iron, and the heavier we lift, it's actually the recovery that we're in the building stage for the muscle. So creatine helps with that as well. So I'm going to quote this from a source that says many popular sports supplements on the market, creatine is consistently ranked among the best for athletic performance supplements, and it's relatively inexpensive, and it's been verified safe compared to other supplements over and over again. So it's considered safe and has so many values. There's obviously more scientific information that you can break down why the creatine, what it does in the muscle cell and what it does in all these areas. But this is, again, just informational, just to put it out there for you. You can dig as deep as you want because you'll find a million videos and studies and reports on it, on whether it's on Google or YouTube. You can really dig deep into the scientific aspect of it, or the physiology of how it builds muscle. But in so many different ways, it's worth our consideration, because remember, we want to live longer and stronger, and as we age, it's challenging from every aspect. So creatine can be a big boost in helping to that end. Now, the second area that we want to consider creatine is that it can improve brain function. Creatine plays an important role in brain health and function, and we require a significant amount of ATP, which is energy, and our brain uses that too, especially when we're trying to work on difficult tasks. So the phosphocreatine stores in our brain help us to produce more ATP. And creatine can aid brain function by increasing dopamine levels and mitochondrial function. Now, what's fascinating, as I mentioned, it comes from meat sources. We create a little bit of it on our own through, as far as the liver and the brain. But vegetarians, sometimes we don't think of individuals who are vegetarians. They're not getting the creatine from the meat sources. So there's one study that they gave creatine to vegetarians to supplement with, and they found 20 to 50% improvement in some memory and intelligent test scores. Those are pretty high percentages to show that supplementing with the creatine helped, because they're not getting it from food sources in their diet. Also, as far as brain function, it can help regarding memory, reaction time, things like that, where there's less brain fog and better memory recall. As we age, sometimes those are the things that slow down first. So creatine can have a great role in doing that and helping us to have these better functioning aspects to our brain. And reaction time, I know we've talked about this before. As we get older, falls are definitely a big risk for people as they get in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And reaction time sometimes is the aspect of that, is the brain connecting with the body. Sometimes we just think it's all physical that somebody falls, but sometimes it's the brain connection and reaction time of understanding what's happening and catching ourselves. Obviously, we need the physical strength to be able to do that, and some agility, balance, but also the brain connecting. So again, creatine can be a great help with that. Our number 3 reasons for considering taking creatine goes right along with brain function, is that it may help in fighting neurological diseases, and specifically some of the things that it can help with: Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, Huntington's disease, and some of the ways that it's not a cure, but it can help reduce or slow the disease progression. And again, there's scientific things that go into this that, again, science was never my great subject, so I'm not going to even attempt to bore you or insult you that I know anything about the science. But reading it, I get a basic idea. One of the things that it does mention here in our report, that a key factor in several neurological diseases is a reduction of phosphocreatine in our brain. So again, it's a reason to consider it. As I mentioned, it's not a cure, but it can help fight. It's another tool in our arsenal to fight back against these things that kind of ruin the quality of our life and maybe even lessen the longevity of it. So we're looking at health span and longevity, and particularly the brain is an important one along with our physical part. So creatine can be a great aid in that. And obviously, they're constantly doing research, and we're going to talk about dosage specifically regarding the brain a little later. But as they do these tests and they're finding out more and more, it's all good. Everything they're finding out with the creatine is actually better for us and good for us. And who knows, maybe starting this, I'm 60 now, but individuals in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, if you start a healthy regimen and protocol of proper sleep, proper diet, proper exercise, supplementing with something like creatine, maybe it could ward off, when or even if ever we get some of these diseases such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. It's probably too early to know these things, but the more we try ahead of time, years ahead of time, is, again, you're not going to wake up one day and have these problems. It's something that builds over years, even decades. So the sooner we can take advantage and do these things, creatine might be a great tool. They're a weapon to fight neurological disease, to slow down the progression, or even if we do it far enough in advance, maybe even postpone or prevent altogether. Number 4 in our list here is that it can perhaps reduce or fight lowering blood sugar and fighting diabetes. And that's something, again, that is of great trouble nowadays. It seems like diabetes is, specifically diabetes 2, is something that's affecting more and more individuals. I'm fighting it myself as far as, actually, this is a good point. I guess I'll bring up again. Maybe you haven't seen earlier videos, but I had a mild heart attack back in February. And some of the issues I had were my sugar numbers were kind of off the charts. I knew it was primarily because of my diet, and I've adjusted all of that, and I'm basically off of diabetes meds right now. There's the only thing that they're monitoring, and I'm doing a number of things to help that. Keeping weight off was a big one. But anyways, getting back to the creatine can be something that can help in that regard. Here's a study. A 12-week study examined how creatine affects blood sugar levels after a high-carb meal. People who combined creatine and exercise exhibited better blood sugar control than those who only exercised. So, again, this is something on the newer side that they've found, and more studies need to be taken, but again, it gives us a compelling reason to consider supplementing with creatine. And I'll talk more about my personal story another time. For now, we're just focusing on the creatine. And our number 5 point is that it may reduce fatigue and tiredness. And again, there have been a number of studies that have helped people to appreciate and benefit, even specifically those who suffered a traumatic brain injury. Notice this one: in a 6-month study in people with traumatic brain injury, those who supplemented with creatine experienced a 50% reduction in dizziness compared to those who didn't supplement with it. And furthermore, only 10% of patients in the supplement group experienced fatigue compared to 80% in the control group. So I know it's only one study, but there's many studies linking it to helping with fatigue and tiredness. Even when it comes to sleep deprivation, there have been studies that it gave increased energy levels to those who supplemented with it, who've suffered that. And actually, I was listening to a podcast, and the woman, who's actually, I believe, a doctor, she had a super poor night of sleep, felt terrible, and took somewhere between 10 and 20 grams of creatine and felt phenomenal. Woke her up, gave her energy, mental sharpness. Obviously, that's anecdotal, but it did have the effect for her. So it's something to keep in mind. And we mentioned earlier, when it comes to muscle mass building and fitness, that it reduces fatigue and helps in that area. So it can help us in the brain too, and just our bodies in general. So let me go through those 5 quickly again. So the first reason to consider it: creatine helps build muscle. Second, it can improve brain function. Third, creatine may fight neurological diseases. Fourth, it may lower blood sugar and fight diabetes. And fifth, it may reduce fatigue and tiredness. Now, getting to the dosage, actually before the dosage, let me throw in a few other ones that they're, again, doing more and more research. One area is dealing where it may actually help fight and prevent certain types of cancers. Again, that's powerful. It's too early, but it's a powerful consideration to keep in mind. And as we talked about brain function, neurological diseases, we've mentioned in other videos how many people suffer from depression. They're also seeing that it can have an impact on people who suffer from depression. it can be a game changer, is something that one of the scientists linked to. So the dosage, for the most part, people in the early stages of taking creatine, it's always been a dosing to like dose at 20 grams to load the body, and then eventually they would go down to 5 grams per day. But some of the new research and that's come out is individuals are taking up to 20 grams a day, and that's primarily for the brain benefits. 5 to 10 grams, many feel, is sufficient for muscle building, but to get the brain benefits, the brain derived benefits, up to 20 to 25 grams. Now, it's still everything I've seen and watched and heard and learned. It might not be all the time, and we'd all have to kind of experiment for ourselves and again speak with your physician regarding it. Even if you were to go up to 20 grams, I would start at 5 and see, because some individuals might have mild GI distress. You don't want to be going to the bathroom all the time from it, so you want to see how your body reacts to it. And probably doing 5 grams 4 times a day, if you're going to go to the 20 gram level, would be a good way to see how your body reacts to it. But more and more information is coming out that that's where the brain benefits come from. Now, as you mentioned, the bottom line is that creatine, it's safe and easy to use according to so many scientists and studies that have come out, but you need to decide that for yourself along with your doctor if you're going to do that. And also just taking the basic creatine that's out there. I was taking it for a little while in gummies, and then there was a video just came out recently, Thomas DeLauer, where there have been studies where, and it's true with any supplement, not just picking on the creatine supplement, but supplements are kind of unregulated, and you never know what you're going to get sometimes. And some of the gummies, they found that there was little to almost none in some of the gummies that are supposedly creatine gummies. So if you're going to go that route, you want to do your research. There's something called Suppco, SUPPCO. It's an app, and they do research on supplements and grade them. So that might be a place to look for what you're going to be taking. But creatine monohydrate is what we're basically looking for. It's very basic and generally not expensive and considered safe in many regards. I'm not saying that. I'm just putting it out there, what others have said. So you want to do that research for yourself. But we've talked about some compelling reasons to consider taking creatine. Personally, since I had my heart attack, I've been on several medicines, still on a few, and hoping to change that in the coming months. So basically, I haven't been taking any supplements with the medicine because all the medicines seem to have a danger of interactions, even with supplements. So I'm hoping, if not the next few months, by the end of the year, to be able to get back on creatine, and I will most likely be going 10 to 15 grams, if not 20 at times. But until then, I encourage you to do your research, talk with your physician. These are things that definitely can help us. Remember, here at LZ23 Strength, we strive to exert ourselves. We want to elevate our health. We want to evolve in mind and body, and creatine might be a nice tool in our toolkit to help us do that. So please leave a comment, maybe your supplement routine, how you feel about taking creatine, if you've been taking it for a while, benefits that you've noticed, things that you've noticed. Please hit the like button and please subscribe. And we'll look forward to giving you more content in the future regarding supplementation and all things that are going to help us to live longer and stronger. Take care.